So I want to come here today in an attempt to cut through the noise a little bit, right? What we do here on this show is we talk about art. We talk about art in every facet, every aspect we can talk about art, we do talk about art, right? We go into these deep, weird subjects off to the side that probably aren't that productive towards actually making any art, making any better art than we did before discussing the subject, but nonetheless, discuss them because they're interesting, right? Today I want to travel in the opposite direction, right? Because I love doing that. It's like my favorite thing on earth, right? I don't believe that art philosophy is an official branch of philosophy. I believe that technically there's something called art theory, right? Because like every little philosopher has their own couple theories on art, which is weird, by the way. Like, I'm not weird that we have the name art theory, but it's weird that like every philosopher in history, like literally from Plato on, was like, here are my thoughts on art, by the way, and that's just like somewhere in any of their texts. That's like an interesting thing, I think, right? And for that reason, I actually think that it should be a more discussed topic than it perhaps is. But I'm already getting caught on a side tangent at the beginning of this. I love doing this, but I also sometimes hate it, right? I hate doing this sometimes because I think it can be so... I think in a void, it's antithetical to what creating art is, right? What do I mean by this? I just did the thing I hate the most, when you ask yourself a question and answer it. I don't want to know what I mean by this. I will tell you what I mean by this. What I mean by this is that art is a simple process. Like, all around, art is a far more simple process than any one of my videos or any other video is going to make it sound, right? The idea that anything, any prerequisite, any sort of philosophy is required to make art, I think is wrong, right? I think that what you need is to be a person, and I think there's a bonus that could be added in of having something to say, right? And even that second I regard as a bonus very purposefully, because I don't actually think you even need something to say to make great art, because I think we all automatically have something to say, right? Well, some of us, I don't know. We can discuss that further in this episode. I think that the idea of, art is process, art is final product, art is meaning, art is communication. Like, you'll see a lot of these statements, especially namely dependent, on what side of social media you're on. Because it's all now, of course, dependent on that. If you're on the side of social media that I'm on, that's constantly discussing art, you'll see a lot of these things. Like, I'll see a lot of good takes that are, good art is unique art, and then good art is not unique art, good art is just good art. Good art is practice, good art is skill. Good art is talent. Good art is vision. You get the point. I don't need to keep going on this rabbit hole. People have opinions on what makes art good art versus bad art, and they love sharing these opinions. They love making them known, and I think that part of the reason I come here making a video like this every now and again is because I see these opinions, and namely what I hate is not so much the opinions themselves. I think that they're all, I don't think any of them are especially wrong or right, to be honest with you. I think they're all up for discussion, but what I find annoying about them is pretty much just the absolute nature in which they're typically presented, right? People are not interested in having, and this is, a very common trend of the internet, right? People are not interested in having a conversation about these things. They're interested in telling you their opinion on them, and then arguing their opinion on them, and then maybe changing the goalposts if the argument kind of loses favor, as many arguments will. Even if they're correct, the argument can still be lost. And I think that the very nature of how social media lets these things be presented makes it seem bad if something is disagreed upon, right? It makes it seem like you're wrong. I saw a guy who thought that art was all about process and not about meaning at all. He was like, if people make meaning in art, like, that's just like wrong. Like, if you're worried about the meaning of your paintings or your songs, you are an idiot. You just got to worry about the process and let other people decide the meaning, right? And like, I know of people who would see that, myself included at certain points. I mean, if you catch me when I'm just feeling bad, to be honest, and be like, oh man, so I'm a bad artist because I don't do what they say, right? I think this is namely what I'm trying to combat, right? And I hate that because I think that it's antithetical to what you need to actually create art, and that is, as I alluded to earlier, to be human. You just need to, that's literally it. Art is it's fun, right? It's light, it's fun, and I am going to talk about it in some high and mighty terms, but I don't want any of the terms I discuss art in to make you think it's any less light and fun than it is. Art is light, art is fun. But at the same time, outside of creating art, what it represents in the grand scheme of things, if you will, is the oldest human tradition ever. Like, we've been making art since the cave paintings, and especially based on what definition of art you're using, one that I'm partial to is, of course, the Oxford definition. Every accomplishment that humanity has made, from the pyramids to the iPhone to ChatGPT, are all pieces of art because they are human imagination, they're human ingenuity put to the test, right? For that reason, I think that to deny yourself of art is deny yourself of, like, your birthright. Like, I don't think, I even would go as far as saying, like, not how, like, we have the idea of, like, fundamental rights, you know, which, I mean, I think it's also, like, these rights were obviously come up with by philosophers over the years. I think this list could be added to. I think this list could be altered to match the modern day, right? Like, something like pursuit of happiness is sort of vague in the modern day. I think we're a little more advanced in using such vague terminology. But besides the point, I think you could actually say that some of these rights that we've come up with, the fundamental rights of, like, John Locke, just, you know, throwing a random name out there, come from more so than anything, it boils down to the right to create art. Right? Like freedom of speech, the right to speak, the right to use language. Like that is a right to use art, to use the art of speech. Like that is, you know, such a, you know, if you look at things from that angle, I'm not saying that's why they were created, but I do think that, like, if you look at things from that angle, you can learn a little bit about just how integral art is to being human, right? So I say this not to be like what you do when you create a painting or if you doodle on a napkin is you're participating in the grand human experience, and you need to take that ultimately so seriously. I don't mean that at all. You know, it can be as serious or as unserious as you want to take it. That's up to you. But what I do mean is that you already have all the requirements made there to create great art, no matter what, right? Maybe you're saying I don't have talent. That can be changed. You can, you know, I don't have talent either. I started this year painting every day with less talent than I do now, and this is still pretty bad. I'm still making bad paintings every day, but I'm just doing it still. And one day they'll be okay paintings, and then maybe 3 years from then they'll even be good paintings, and then maybe 10 years from then they'll be great paintings, right? That's how that works. And you can do the same thing. I mean, it doesn't need to be intense. It doesn't need to be serious. You don't need to even want to make something great. You just can make things. And, like, that is the only barrier to entry to make art, is to be a person. Like, I mean that so literally. Like, you have already fulfilled the thing. And I would want to expand upon this with perhaps what my own personal take is, because I think, like, the thing that a lot of people think of when they say this is like, oh, I don't have a vision or whatever. You know, like, there's a lot of talk around sort of like what it means to be an artist, and a lot of that ends up encompassing these ideas of, like, grand vision, grand design, like creative directions, like the biggest buzzword on earth now, and, like, it's as fake as the job of a consultant, if we're being honest. But, you know, I think that if you're kind of struggling with that question, right? Because the talent question's stupid. The talent question's a red herring. And dare I say, if you're somebody sitting here and you are, you know, posing the talent question to your screen right now, 1, don't talk to your YouTube videos. That's weird. 2, I believe that's a red herring. Like, I think people that pose that question of, like, well, I'm not talented, I think they know the answer to it. I think they're just scared to start, right? And I oftentimes think that the fear to start comes out of all these expectations that were put on to, like, the artist as a role in society, right? Like, it's seen as like Picasso is mystical. Nobody knew where his vision came from. You know, I mean, even nowadays, like with like a guy like Kanye, or at least Kanye like 5 years ago, the way people would talk about him would be like, man, like nobody can even begin to describe where that kind of genius comes from. I think that's all BS too. But if you want to answer that question, if you feel unworthy, still, even though you shouldn't feel unworthy already, even if you don't have an answer to that question. I think all it really takes is just something to say, right? Like, if you have something that you say, like, I don't mean like something to say in the art even. Like, do you have something to say? Do you have an opinion about anything? Like, literally, I mean this so genuinely. Do you have something to say about anything? Do you have an opinion that goes past a service level statement of like love everyone, freedom, like love and life. Like, you know, if you have thoughts that go past live, laugh, love, then you're already halfway there. You know what I mean? Like that is like all it really takes is if you have a semblance of unique ideas, which everybody does if they dig deep enough, and the desire to create, you are now an artist. And I think that in all the discourse, in all the discussion that goes around about so many of these things, we forget that that is the truth. Like that is the ultimate truth about how art works. It just is. And I don't think it's, I'm even going to say, and I realize this is ironic because I started this video by saying I hate the absolute nature of a lot of these art videos, but I'm going to make an absolute statement now because I believe this to be absolutely true. I think that that is the truth and undisputably the truth. I think that if you are against that truth, if you think that that truth is that, you know, humans create art, like if you don't think that art is something for all humans to do and to enjoy, if you think the artist is a special type person, I believe you're anti-art. I think you're full of shit. I do. Like I'm sorry. I feel like that's a mean thing to say, but it's what I believe. You know, I don't like that, and I'm not gonna like tiptoe around that. Like I think that's just the bad, wrong perspective. Is everyone gonna end up creating the next masterpiece? No, not by any means, but it's anybody can. You know, not everybody will, but anybody can. I think that's the important thing to recognize. And you know, I think this video is for two types of people. I think it's for artists who are halfway into their journey and feeling lost, and I think it's for people who haven't started the journey yet and really need to. Because the chances are, if you watch something like this, you got it, like you want to, you know, so do it. Just 100% do it. Art is by humans for humans. That's the only way that goes. This is the painting. Going in with a new palette today. We got some greens in here. I threw the greens over the teals. You can see it on the palette cam over here. Real special palette cam. I know. I'm very excited about it. I've been using it a lot. But yeah, so this is the new color palette. Threw them on here. I mean, I don't really know what happened here. Like they didn't blend in all that interesting of a way. To be honest, I was really gonna do this pink on the background and then do all these, and then put the green over to get some crazy contrast. But I got scared. I'll say it. I got scared. I chickened out of doing that. I genuinely got scared because I was like, what if it's bad? But you know what? I'm gonna do it tomorrow because what if it's good? Check us out on the TikTok and the Instagram. Until next time, guys, gals, and pals, my name is Max Dice. This is Paint Talk episode 270. I'm here every morning, painting and talking with you all.